Okay, so let me share this tab real quick so we can look at the quiz together. Whenever you open up a quiz, I'm trying to have information in the description here for you guys to see. It tells you which questions we're going to be completing in class. Questions 1 through 20 will be completed in class. Like I said, it's going to take us all week. So we're definitely not going to get all of those questions answered today. Okay, so don't rush through. Don't try and guess. Just learn and then answer the questions as we go. Okay, so when we start the quiz, and wait patiently for it to load, because all the systems sometimes take forever to load. Like I said last week, don't panic when you see how many questions there are on the quiz. We're going to do up to question 20 together. And it's kind of like guided notes. Okay, so imagine if you were sitting in a regular classroom and you had a notebook and your teacher had slides up and they're like, write this down. Okay, that's kind of what we're doing here. So all of this information will help you to be able to answer the on your own questions at the end of the quiz. Okay, sound good? Thumbs up. So this is question number 1. First things first is we have to know the sentence patterns that we use in English. And all languages have sentence patterns. Some languages have similar sentence patterns. Other languages, their sentence patterns are completely different than English. This is how we do it in English, okay? So we have a subject and a verb at the very least. That's what we need to make a complete sentence, a subject and a verb. And then sometimes we can have stuff after the verb. Okay, we can have a subject, verb, and an object, a subject, verb, and an adjective, a subject, a verb, and an adverb, or a subject, verb, and another noun. Does that make sense? You're going to see these formulas a lot in this class when we do other stuff too. Okay, so far so good? If you have questions, please let me know. If you're not sure what this means, please let me know. So in your quiz, you're going to select all of the sentence patterns that we use in English. So all of these, subject, verb, plus something else. It has to be in that order. Okay? That's how we do it in English, in that order. Subject, verb, and then something else, or just subject, verb. Okay, so while you guys are selecting that in your quiz, I'm going to talk about some of the examples. So the subject of a sentence is the noun or pronoun doing the action. And the subject is always going to be some kind of noun or pronoun. And it's always going to be doing something. So in this example, the bell is our subject. That's a noun, right? Nouns are people, places, things, or ideas. The bell is a thing, right? We can pick it up. It's an object, or it's a thing, I should say. The bell is our subject. The verb, the action that it's doing, is rang. The bell rang. Make sense so far? So far, so good? I don't want to rush through this section because if you've never seen the sentence patterns before, it could take a minute to wrap your brain around it. Okay, so subject, verb, object. This is what we're going to see a lot. This is what we see most often. So she, that's our pronoun, that's our subject. Likes is our verb. Eggs. Eggs is the object. The object of a sentence receives the action. So the eggs are receiving the action of being liked. Okay, does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so. I'm going to get my pen tool here. I hope so. I hope it makes sense. So the action in a sentence travels in one direction. The subject is doing the action, and the object receives the action. Okay. So in sentences that have state of being verbs, those are those little verbs like is or was. Those are usually going to have some kind of adjective afterwards. Adjectives modify nouns. Adjectives describe nouns. Adjectives give us more information about nouns. So when we see a state of being verb, one of those little verbs, we're probably going to have an adjective after it. So Martin, he's our subject. Is the verb. Busy is the adjective that describes Martin. Okay. We could also have adverbs after the verb. Adverbs modify verbs. They add information to the verbs. So the truck, which is the subject, came, that's the verb, that's the thing that the subject is doing. Here is an adverb. So it's telling you where that action is happening. Or he ran fast. It's telling you how or in what way that action is happening. Okay. Or we could have subject, verb, noun. So this is another one where we're going to see those state of being verbs, are and was. So we could have a noun instead of an adjective. Okay. They are teachers. Marilyn was the class president. Okay. Good so far? Subject, verb, and then maybe something else in that order. Okay. So now let's talk more about the subject of a sentence, and this will answer questions 2 and 3. And I'm going to share my screen so we can look at questions 2 and 3. And if you've had me for my A section, you already know how I do these kinds of questions. Whenever there is it's kind of like a fill in the blank, but you're selecting it. If there's more than one blank, I'm going to color code it, and it will always be blue and purple. And if there's a third blank, it's a different color, okay? But it's always going to be blue and purple. Blue for A, purple for B, because I like being consistent. So in the options, there will be 2 correct answers. Okay? Always read how many correct answers there are. You select 1A and 1B. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down, if that makes sense. Okay, I tried to make it super clear. Sometimes there's confusion, and sometimes there's not. I love when there's not. All right, so let's take a look at, my goodness, questions 2 and 3. The subject is the who or what the sentence is about. The who or what. So make sure when you're selecting those, you select the correct options that match the spaces. The subject is the who or what the sentence is about. It is always a noun or a pronoun. Always. Some kind of noun or pronoun. So for example, the man went to the store. The man is the subject. He's the who that the sentence is about, and he's doing the action. Subject is always doing the action. All right, so this sentence down here, Fred laughed loudly at the joke. What's the subject of that sentence? Good job, Grace. Fred. Yep. Fred is the subject of that sentence. All right, so let's activate. Awesome. All right, so now, second part of our sentence pattern is the verb. We talked about the subject. Now we're talking about the verb. There can be more than one verb in a sentence, and that's okay. These particular sentences have helping verbs and main verbs. So in questions 4, 5, and 6, you are matching up the subject, helping verb, main verb, and object of each of these sentences. Okay? So no guessing. So the subject is always the noun or pronoun performing the action. It's doing the action. The helping verb are those state of being verbs usually, and they're connecting the subject to the main verb. The main verb is the actual action that's happening. Okay. And then the object, most of you have clicked that button. All right, so now let's talk about the object part of the sentence. Sometimes it's an object, sometimes it's an adverb, things like that. But when we have objects, we can have different kinds of objects. We can have direct objects. So in this case, Juan kicked the ball. Direct objects receive that action of the verb. The ball is the one being kicked. Indirect objects involve something being done to something else indirectly. So let me get my pen out. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay. I'm back. All right. Engaged sleeps being weird. All right, so we got Joshua as our subject. We got built as the verb. So that is what Joshua is doing. That's the action that Joshua is doing, built. What is it that Joshua built? Tell me in the chat box. What did Joshua build? A fence. So the fence is the direct object because the fence is receiving that action of being built. But Emma is the indirect object because the fence is being built for Emma. So that's the indirect object. The fence is the direct object. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So if you ever need to know which is which, just ask yourself what is receiving the action. So in this case, the fence is receiving the action of being built, and Emma is getting that action indirectly because she's not receiving the building, she's receiving the fence that was built. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And sometimes we can have an object of the preposition, and objects of a preposition occur after a preposition. The job of a preposition is to tell you the relationship between two things in a sentence. And by relationship, I mean where something is in relationship to something else. And I had a teacher one time that told us if you think of a squirrel and a tree, that will help you think of prepositions. Or a cat and a box. A cat and a box would work too. But he used squirrel and a tree. So anywhere that the squirrel can be in relationship to the tree is a preposition. The squirrel can be in the tree, on the tree, under the tree, near the tree, above the tree. See how that shows the relationship of where the squirrel is compared to the tree? That's how I always remembered it. You could also do cat in a box if that makes sense to you. Either way is fine. So in this example, the fisherman is our subject. The verb is fell. And then we have a preposition. Over is the preposition. And it tells you the relationship between that fisherman and the rail and how he fell. Because he fell over it. He didn't fall under it. He didn't fall around it. He didn't fall through it. He fell over it. Okay? Make sense? Hopefully? So someone from every table tell the room, what is a modifier? So let's put it in the room chat. What is a modifier? There we go. Words, phrases, and clauses that add information about other parts of a sentence. Very good. Okay, so now question number 9. A modifier should be closest to what it's modifying. Is that true or false? Let's select it on the board. Okay, fantastic. We got almost everybody. All right, it is true. A modifier should be closest to what it's modifying. Do you guys remember in the video they had thing 1 and thing 2 and then the modifier in the middle and they scooched it closer to what it should be modifying? So modifiers will modify whatever it is they're close to. Okay? Okay. So let's stop that. Yes, party hat emoji. Okay, so now let's talk about modifiers a little bit more because we got to look at sentences that are correct before we can recognize if they're not correct. Okay. So let's answer this again. This should be super simple because it's literally the same question we just answered, but it's worded differently. So typically, you will find a modifier snuggled right next to, either in front of or behind, the word it logically describes. True or false? All right, this is true. We're going to take a look at what that will look like. So let's take a look at this sentence, and we're going to take a very simple one-word adjective, blue, and we're going to add it to the sentence below. So where do you think the word blue should go in this sentence? At a downtown dealership, Kara bought a truck from a salesman with a comb over. What do we think? Where should we put that one word adjective modifier before truck? Okay, let's do that. Blue. At a downtown dealership, Kara bought a blue truck from a salesman with a comb over. Okay. That makes sense, right? Right? Yes, no, maybe so? Yeah, that makes sense. So what we're picturing is something like this. Something like that, right? Got to give it some tires. Right? We got a blue truck. Yeah. All right. So what happens if we move that modifier somewhere else? At a downtown dealership, blue Kara bought a truck from a salesman with a comb over. Now what does the sentence mean? What are we picturing? Kara's blue? Is she a Smurf? She could be. Is she sad? I don't know. It's not clear, is it? She's either a Smurf or she's sad or that's part of her name, right? We don't know. It's not clear. Okay. But it completely changed the meaning of the sentence, didn't it? All right. How about if I put the word blue right here? At a blue downtown dealership, Kara bought a truck from a salesman with a comb over. Now what do we see in our heads when we read that sentence? The dealership is blue, right? So we got a building right here. And the building is blue. And this is the dealership. Dealership. Right? Okay. Now, what if I put it there? At a downtown dealership, Kara bought a truck from a salesman with a blue comb over. Now what are we picturing? Right, his hair is blue. So we got the salesman over here. Here we go. He's got blue hair. Maybe he used to be cool in high school. He peaked in high school and just couldn't let it go and just kept dyeing his hair. Now he sells cars. I don't know. Right? But depending on where that modifier is, it changes the meaning of something in the sentence, right? Right? Yes, no, maybe so? Yes. Okay? Yes, it changes the meaning. So, let's take a look at an example. So, we have a sentence on the board. I want the donut with sprinkles. And I've already underlined the modifier for you. Okay, but I'm going to teach you a trick on how to identify the modifiers. Remember, modifiers are words, phrases, and clauses that add information to other parts of the sentence. But how do we know which part of the sentence is adding information? That's where the sentence patterns come in. Do you guys remember those sentence patterns? Subject verb, object, subject verb adverb, subject verb adjective, subject verb noun, subject verb, and then maybe something else. Remember? Yes. Okay. So let's label those parts. And I'm just going to make it simple, I'm just going to put subject verb object in the chat box. So subject, verb, and then whatever the last part of the sentence is. It could be a bunch of different things, but I'm just going to say object to make it simple. Okay? Okay. So what's our subject? The subject is the who or what the sentence is about. The subject is always a noun or pronoun doing the action. That's right, I. So I is the subject. Here we go. There we go. Subject is I. What's our verb? Want. Very good. And what's our object? Donut. Yep. Okay. So you see how it goes, subject, verb, object, in that order, right? Always in that order. And now whatever is not labeled, that's going to be a modifier. Okay. Okay. So modifiers add information. So what are these words with sprinkles adding information to? And I'm going to activate these tags. So you part of the sentence is this modifier adding information to? And I'm going to put timer up here too. Timer, timer. There we go. What part of the sentence is the modifier adding information to? I see 14 responses. Everybody. Edwin, Iris, Sana, Adrian, Aubrey. Okay. So remember, modifiers add information to whatever they're closest to. So what is the modifier closest to in the sentence? It's closest to donut. It's literally right next to donut. Okay? Remember how we moved the blue around to different parts of the sentence and it modified those different parts of the sentence? With sprinkles is right next to donut. So it's going to modify donut. So now the donut has sprinkles. Okay? We're not adding sprinkles to the verb because the verb is almost as far away as you can possibly get from the modifier. The modifier will modify whatever it's closest to. Okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Make sense? Yes. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's try another sentence. The girl with the donut is smiling. So what is our subject? The girl. That's right. What's the verb? Whoop. That's a fancy S. You guys skipped over a word. Remember when I said everybody always forgets about these verbs? Is the verb. Okay. Is the verb. Don't forget about those state of being verbs. And then remember our sentence patterns. And I said that there's a couple that you'll see the state of being verbs most often when we have subject, verb, noun, subject, verb, adjective, right? So whenever we're adding an ing ending to a word, that word can be used as a noun or as an adjective. It's called a gerund. We're not really going to get into that, but that ing ending tells you that it's not really the action. The state of being verb is the action. The smiling is the noun that she is. It's weird sometimes with endings and they change the part of speech, whatever. Is smiling can also be considered the verb phrase, but this would be that third part of the sentence. Subject, verb, object, adjective, adverb, noun, whatever it can be. And remember, I'm just saying object to make it simple. Okay, subject, verb, whatever that third part is. Got it? Makes sense? If you consider it a verb phrase, that's fine, doesn't matter. Okay, but we know that that is our main sentence. Everything else is our modifier. With the donut is our modifier. Because it's not the subject, the verb, or the object. So modifiers are not the subject, verb, or object, but they will add information to different parts of the sentence. Okay, so what is with the donut modifying? Come on, Engagely. You can do it. Okay. What is with the donut modifying? And let me get a timer. Timer. There we go. So remember, modifiers are adding information to the parts of the sentence that it is closest to. So you can ask yourself, you can take a look at whatever that modifier is with the donut, and you can ask yourself, well, what part of the sentence has a donut? Okay, so what part of the sentence has a donut? Tell me in the chat box. Right, it's the girl. The girl has the donut. Smiling doesn't have the ability to have the donut, and it's not closest to the donut. So the words with the donut is closest to girl. You see that? Smiling is slightly further away from the modifier. So the modifiers are going to modify what it's closest to. Okay. All right. Yes. Party hat emoji. Love it. All right. So let's try this one. The boy dressed in green ate the donut. So what is our subject? The boy. That's right. The boy is our subject. What's the verb? So what's the action that the boy is doing? Ate. Very good. And what's our object? The donut. Right. So now when we label the subject, verb, object of our sentence, we can easily see what that modifier is, dressed in green. So what is our modifier modifying? So you can ask yourself, what in this sentence is dressed in green? Let me get a timer up here. There we go. What in this sentence is dressed in green? That's okay. I just like that you guys are participating. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate all your participation today. All right, all right, all right. Okay. So, dressed in green, closest to the boy. He's the one who's dressed in green. So remember, modifiers are adding information to other parts of the sentence, so it's being more specific. Okay? It's not just any boy. It's the boy dressed in green. Okay? So we have more information. It's more specific. We know exactly who they're talking about. All right. And everyone got this one right. Yes. Love it. Okay. We still got time. Okay, so let's practice a tougher question. Okay. So let's practice a little tougher question. Gazing out the window, Paul missed the homework assignment that Mrs. Ward wrote on the board. Okay. So let's label our subject, verb, object. What's our subject? Paul. That's right. Paul's our subject. Okay. What's our verb? Remember our sentence patterns. Subject, verb, object in that order. Yep. We're not jumping all over the sentence trying to find the verb. It's going to be in that order. That's okay. Takes practice. That's okay. We got our verb. Now, what's the object? So what is it that Paul missed? We need to include all the words. Including the articles. Can't forget those articles. So let's write it in the chat box. Y'all gonna learn. Yeah, the homework assignment. Okay. The homework, and I'm gonna underline the whole thing, is our object. The homework assignment is the object. Subject, verb, object. That could be a complete sentence all by itself. Now we have lots of extra information. Okay? Lots and lots of extra information. So we have, gotta learn somehow. So let me change my colors here. Let's pick blue for this one. So we have this extra information right there that I'm going to highlight in purple. And we have this extra information that I'm going to highlight in orange. Okay. So we have gazing out the window and that Mrs. Ward wrote on the board. So both of those things are adding information to different parts of the sentence. So let's start with the first one, gazing out the window. What is that modifier modifying? And it's okay to have more than one modifier in a sentence. What is that modifier modifying? Gazing out the window. It's adding information to which part of the sentence? Paul. Yes, it's telling us more information about Paul. Yeah. All right. How about the modifier in orange that Mrs. Ward wrote on the board? What is that modifying? Modifiers modify whatever they're closest to in the sentence. That Mrs. Ward wrote on the board, highlighted in orange. That's our second modifier. What's it modifying? The homework assignment. Yep. So we're being more specific about the homework assignment. It's giving us more information about that homework assignment. It's not just any homework assignment. It's the one that Mrs. Ward wrote on the board. Okay. Make sense? Are we getting it? Yeah? Okay. So you should have answered this question yesterday, but this is where we're going to start because we're going to talk about misplaced modifiers today. And hopefully we'll get to dangling modifiers too. A misplaced modifier is a phrase or clause placed awkwardly in a sentence so that it appears to modify or refer to an unintended word. I'm giving you guys another chance to click the button on the board for this one because I know this was the last thing we did yesterday. So I want to make sure everybody has this question answered. A misplaced modifier is a phrase or clause placed awkwardly in a sentence so that it appears to modify or refer to an unintended word. Have you guys ever misplaced anything? Always? Got some thumbs up? Yeah, me too. All the time. When I lived with my parents, I would misplace my keys all the time. My dad had hooks to hang the keys on so everybody would know where their keys were, right? And that's a fantastic idea. And I didn't always hang my keys on the hook and I would misplace them. And he would tell me, if your keys were on the hook, you'd know where they were. And of course he's right, but I didn't always put them on the hook. By the time I moved out, I was in the habit of putting those keys on the hook, so I always knew where they were. But I didn't always do that, and I would misplace them. And when something is misplaced, it's around here somewhere, right? It's just in the wrong spot. Like my keys were not on the hook, which was the right spot. So it's the same thing with misplaced modifiers. The modifier is in the sentence somewhere. It's just in the wrong spot. Okay, so we have to find the right spot for it. Okay, so let's stop that and let's take a look at some tips for identifying and fixing misplaced modifiers. So let me activate this so you guys can click the button on the board after you select all of these tips in your quiz. Okay, and I'm going to talk about them as you select them in your quiz. First of all, you got to recognize when something in the sentence doesn't look right. Read sentences out loud. Okay, something will feel off about the sentence. You might not know what it is, but when you read it out loud, it might not roll off the tongue like it should. It just might feel off. Okay, and that's okay. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. That's what the rest of the steps are for, to be able to figure out what's wrong. So then we got to identify the subject, verb, object. And we've done that. We've been doing that, and we're going to continue to do that because that is the easiest way to be able to see the modifier. The modifier is going to be the extra information. Okay. Then after you find the modifier, identify what the modifier is currently modifying. Modifiers modify whatever they're closest to in the sentence. Okay, so do you guys remember yesterday when we were talking about that modifier blue, and we moved the word blue around to different places in the sentence? You guys remember that? Got some thumbs up. Okay, wherever that word blue was, that blue modified that word. If it was in front of truck, it modified truck. That means the truck was blue. If it was in front of Kara, it was modifying Kara. That means Kara was blue. If it was in front of comb over, now the dude's hair is blue. So wherever that modifier is in the sentence, it's modifying whatever it's next to. Okay? Okay. And whatever it's currently modifying is not always going to be what it's supposed to be modifying. Okay? If it's a misplaced modifier, what it's currently modifying is not going to be right. So then you have to figure out what it should be modifying. And your brain knows how to do this already. Your brain will fix the sentences for you, and you'll know what the author meant. Right? Have you ever read something or someone said something and they said something wrong and you're like, I knew what you meant? Right? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. Your brain does it all the time. Brains are super smart. So your brain already knows, but you need to kind of tell your brain to wait and let the rest of you figure it out before fixing it. Okay? So that's the tricky part, is telling your brain to chill. So then after you figure out what it should be modifying, we can rearrange or reword the sentence to put the modifier as close to what it's supposed to be modifying as possible. Okay? Okay. So select all those tips in your quiz, and then let's take a look at some misplaced modifiers. So this part is not in your quiz. We're just practicing for a second, okay? And I'm going to put a box on the board because I only want to look at one of these at a time. Okay. So let's take a look at that first sentence on the board. Mia napped with her cat, tired after a long day of work. So how's this sentence sound? Say it out loud if you need to. Mia napped with her cat, tired after a long day at work. Does it sound okay? Does it sound a little off? We got a thumbs down. Okay, something sounds a little wrong, right? You might not know what it is yet, and that's okay. But it just sounds or feels off. Okay. So now we need to see, you already know. We're going to go through all the steps anyway, but you already know. So let's find our subject, verb, object. So what's our subject? Mia's our subject. That's right. Come on. It's so hard to draw with a mouse. There we go. Mia's our subject. So what's our verb? What's Mia doing? Napped. That's our verb. And what's our object? And in this case, we have an object of the preposition. Do you guys remember those sentence patterns? So we have a prepositional phrase. So what's our prepositional phrase? We have an object of the preposition in this part of the sentence. We're not jumping all over the place. We need the whole prepositional phrase that includes the object. With her cat. That's right. With is a preposition. Her cat is the object of the preposition. Okay, so that whole part is our object part of the sentence. Okay? Okay. And it's okay to look stuff up. Like if you're not sure, you can go to dictionary.com and type in the word with, and it'll tell you it's a preposition. All right. So now we have our modifier. That's whatever's left after we label our subject, verb, object. Tired after a long day at work. So what is this modifier currently modifying? The way this sentence is written, what is it currently modifying? See, your brain knows what it's supposed to mean. Your brain has already fixed it for you, so you got to tell your brain to wait. Okay? Modifiers modify whatever they're closest to. Whether it's right or wrong, that's what it does. Right. It's currently modifying cat. And I'm going to put that arrow in red because that's not what it should be modifying, is it? So let's see what this looks like with cat being modified by tired after a long day at work. Okay, so we have a cat. Here's a cat. Cat ears. There we go. Tired cat. Okay, got our cat. So now, tired after a long day at work. Let's give him a briefcase. Is that what we want the sentence to say? That the cat is dragging its briefcase home because it's so tired after a long day at work? No, that's not what it's supposed to say. That's what it currently says. So it's okay. And I saw some laughing emojis. It's okay to laugh at the silliness of these sentences. Okay? Because it is silly. It's wrong. Misplaced modifiers are going to sound silly. Okay? So what should this be modifying? What do you think the author intended? Mia, right. Mia is the one who should be tired after a long day at work. But look how far away Mia is from that modifier. She's as far away as she could possibly get from that modifier. Okay. So to fix it, we have to move that modifier closer to what it should be modifying. So where do we put the modifier? In front of Mia, right. So tired after a long day at work, Mia napped with her cat. There we go. Just like that. Now the modifier is closer to Mia, and it works. And that sounds better too, doesn't it? When you're reading it, it doesn't sound off anymore. Yeah. Okay. Let's try another one. I really like this next one. Okay. And I'm going to move this arrow so I have some room. Good. Okay. Turning in the Atlantic Ocean, we anxiously watched the weather report for information about the hurricane. So let's label our subject, verb, object. So what's our subject? Noun or pronoun doing the action. What's our subject? Think of each sentence like a little movie. There you go. Yes, we get that question mark out of your answer. You know what you're talking about. Be confident in your answer. If you think of each sentence as a little movie, the main character is going to be the subject. Okay, so we is our subject. Good job. Yes, be confident. We is our subject. What is the verb? So what are we doing? And we're going to include anxiously in that because anxiously is an adverb, and adverbs and verbs go together. So we got a verb phrase there. So anxiously watched is our verb. So what is it that we anxiously watched? Because we don't want to leave any words out. The weather report. Okay, I'm going to underline that, the weather report, and that's our object. Okay, so now we got lots of information that is not part of the subject, verb, object. So let's highlight those. We got churning in the Atlantic Ocean, and we got for information about the hurricane. Okay, so let's start with the pink one for information about the hurricane. What is that currently modifying? For information about the hurricane. What's it closest to? The weather report. Okay. Is that what it should be modifying? Is that where we're getting the information about the hurricane? Yes. So that one's correct. Perfect. That modifier is in the right spot. Yay! So now let's take a look at the purple one. Churning in the Atlantic Ocean. What is that currently modifying? Modifiers modify whatever they're closest to. We. Yeah, it's modifying we. Are we supposed to be churning in the Atlantic Ocean? What do you guys think? Here's the Atlantic Ocean. That's my best churning of the Atlantic Ocean here. And here's we. Are we supposed to be churning in the Atlantic Ocean? I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be churning in the Atlantic Ocean. That sounds dangerous. So I don't want to be churning in the Atlantic Ocean. So I'm sure the author did not mean that. Right? Okay. So what should be churning in the Atlantic Ocean? The hurricane. Yes. So if we draw an arrow to what it should be modifying, look how far away that modifier is from what it's supposed to be modifying. It's as far away as we could possibly get. So we got to move it. Where should we put that modifier? After hurricane, yes. We anxiously watched the weather report for information about the hurricane churning in the Atlantic Ocean. There we go. That's better. Right? Now we are no longer churning in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. Awesome. Is this starting to make sense now? Yeah? Awesome. Good. Okay. So let's take a look at dangling modifiers. How about that? Dangling modifiers. So a dangling modifier is a word or a phrase that modifies a word that is not stated in the sentence. Okay, so we still have a modifier, but now something's missing. Okay, so it's the dangling modifier has nothing to attach itself to. Okay, so think of this one like a picture. Imagine if you need two nails to hang a picture on the wall. If one of those nails is missing, the picture's going to be dangling. Okay, so something's missing from the sentence. In the misplaced modifiers, everything's in there that you need. Dangling modifiers, something's missing. Something's not clearly stated in the sentence. Okay, I see 7 of you have clicked the button on the board. Everybody, answer this question. It's a fill in the blank question. Word not clearly stated. Adrian, Aiden, Brad, thank you. Bradley, Deliano, Evan, Imani, Iris, Mike. All right. There we go. Okay. So let's take a look at modifiers and their target words. So that's the word we're going to use when referring to what the modifier is supposed to be modifying. Target. Okay, so we got modifiers and we got their target. This sentence has a bunch of modifiers and a bunch of targets. So you're going to match up those modifiers with their targets. Okay, so notice horrified, and I'm going to change my color to green because that's what I've been using before. Horrified is a modifier and it's modifying mom. That's what it's supposed to be modifying, right? Mom is the target word. Okay, horrified is the modifier, mom is the target word. Okay. Horrified, mom snatched the deviled eggs from Jack, whose fingers were covered in cat hair. Deviled is a modifier, and it's giving us more information about the word eggs, which is the target word. Okay. And whose fingers were covered in cat hair is giving us information about Jack, which is the target word. Okay. Makes sense? Modifiers and their target. Yes? Okay. Awesome. So let's take a look at this question. Question number 18. We got another fill in the blank. So sometimes an inexperienced writer will include a modifier but forget the target. Okay, so that means the modifier is now dangling because it has nothing to attach to. Okay, dangling modifiers are errors and their poor construction confuses readers. Okay, so modifier, target, those are the words you're looking for question number 18. All right, so let's take a look at this sentence. Hungry, the leftover pizza was devoured. So hungry is a single word adjective, just like the word when we did the word blue in that sentence. Hungry is a single word adjective. What do you mean? Today's a minimum day, so we still have 5 minutes. Oh, Delano, that's how you say it? Okay, good. Thank you for correcting me. I'm pretty sure I said that wrong when I had you for the A section too. I'm sorry. Delano. Okay, I got it now. It's in there. Thank you for correcting me. Okay. Hungry, the leftover pizza was devoured. So hungry is our modifier that we're looking at. Okay. What is that modifier currently modifying? What is that word hungry currently modifying? The way the sentence is written, what's hungry? The leftover pizza. Right. Okay. So let's see. We got a pizza right here. Let's put some pepperoni on the pizza. Okay. And then how do we indicate hunger? We'll do it like a cartoon. Okay. That's my stomach grumbling drawing. Okay. So yeah, the pizza was so hungry it devoured itself. Like what? Right? It's just turned into a horror movie, right? Because now we got a mouth that's gonna come open and it's gonna start eating itself. Yeah. I don't think that's what the author intended. so now we can't just move stuff around because there's no target. There's nothing in the sentence to tell us who or what is supposed to be hungry. So we need to become the author now and add something to the sentence. So what do you guys think? What do you want to add to the sentence? You guys get to decide. What are we adding to the sentence? Who or what is hungry? Okay, a person. Who? Anybody you want. Pick somebody. Let's say John. Okay. So how do we put John in this sentence so we no longer have a pizza monster? So we got to reword some of the sentence. We got to add more than just John. What do we do? So remember our subject, verb, object stuff. Okay, so John is our subject now. If we're adding John, he can be our subject. Okay, so what's the verb? We need a verb. Come on, you guys are authors. Let's do it. What verb could we add to that? Come on, you guys can do it. I'm going to move these up so I have more room. Was, okay. Okay, John was. Yep, got to add more. What do we add? Too far. There we go. John was what? Come on, it's 11 o'clock. We can do it. Okay, John was hungry. Sure. Now what? We can't just add the leftover pizza was devoured. So there we go. We need a conjunction. Conjunction junction. What's your function? You guys remember that from? So the leftover pizza was devoured. There we go. John was hungry, so the leftover pizza was devoured. Yes! All right, fantastic. It's 11:01. I want to eat lunch. So we will pick up from here on Tuesday and finish the rest of it. Great job, everybody. Fantastic. Okay, so those dangling modifiers, just remember we got to add more to it. All right. No, you got to be sure, be confident in your answers. You could absolutely add more. There's so many ways that we can fix dangling modifiers. All right, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Devoured. That works. Okay, so that's how you fix dangling modifiers. Okay. So let's see what else I have here. We got same sentence here, but we got a true and false question. So just like I said before, fixing a dangling modifier will, I can't talk today. Fixing a dangling modifier will require more than rearranging the words in a sentence. You will often need to add something new so that the modifier finally has a target word to describe. Is that true or false? We just did it. Is that true or false? Fixing a dangling modifier will require more than rearranging the words in the sentence. True or false? And we just did it. So you guys should know the answer to this. I see 10 responses. Everybody, true or false? Click forward. Anthony, Brian, Cassandra, Isaiah, Jasleen, Jeremiah. Lee, Michelle, Rajay. Okay, so on the last slide, did we add something to the sentence? We sure did. Yes, we did. So this is true. To fix a dangling modifier, you have to add something to the sentence because that target word is missing. All right. Unengagedly. Okay, there we go. All right, so here are some tips for identifying and fixing dangling modifiers. And this is question 20. So you will first need to recognize when the sentence is missing a target for that modifier, just like we did with the pizza. We recognized that the pizza couldn't possibly be hungry, so something was missing. So you recognize when something's missing. Then determine an appropriate target, like we did. We added she. You could add whoever you want or whatever you want in the sentences when you're fixing them. And then you got to rewrite the sentence to include a new target and put the modifier as close to the target as possible. So you guys did that. So let's activate that, and you guys can click that board once you select those 3 options in your quiz. And let me add a timer here too. Timer. Let's get everyone to answer those. Make sure you always look to see how many correct answers there are when there's a multi-select question. And you can tell the difference between multi-select questions and multiple choice questions. The multi-select questions, the boxes are squares. The multiple choice questions, where there's only one answer, are round. All right, I see 15 of you have responded. Everybody answer these questions. Everybody who hasn't yet. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lee, Liam,
I'm back. Sorry
Michelle.
about that. It kicked me out of the thing for some reason.
Oh, I'm glad you're back. Rajay, thank you for letting me know. Technology's weird. Okay, most of
It's
you
been
got
weird
it.
all morning for me
All
today.
right, so the next section in the quiz is the on your own section. And I want to just look at this real quick with you guys. So there are pairs of questions. The first question asks you if there is a dangling or a misplaced modifier. It's one of them. So these sentences are wrong. But you have to identify whether it's a misplaced modifier or a dangling modifier. That's what you do. And then the next question in the pair, you revise it, you fix it. You select whichever one is going to fix that sentence. So remember, if it's a misplaced modifier, everything you need is in the sentence. It's just in the wrong spot. If it's a dangling modifier, something's going to be missing. And then when you fix it, make sure you read all the options carefully, read them out loud, and make sure the modifier is as close to what it's supposed to be modifying as possible. Okay, so questions 21 and 22 go together. It's the same sentence. Question 23 and 24 go together. Excuse me, same sentence. Question 25, 26